Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hey,
here we go.
Just
here
maybe,
we go.
The Browns will have Grant Delpit back,
Like
maybe,
yeah.
for Saturday's playoff game for Houston. Let's jump right into that. How big is that for the Browns if he's able to suit up and go?
Hey, the guys who have filled in have done a very good job, but Grant Delpit is the starter for a reason, right? So, listen, in the playoffs, you want as many of your good players as you could possibly have. Obviously, there's other injured players you'd want more. We talked about this yesterday. But certainly, if he can come back, and technically, I know some people are asking about this, he hasn't been activated from the IR yet. He's been designated to return from the IR. What that means is he can now practice with the team, but the reason they haven't activated him officially yet is they don't know if he's going to be able to play this week. And if he's not going to be able to play, you don't want to activate him because if you activate him, you have to cut someone else.
Yeah, there is a distinction there.
Yes.
It's a smart move by the Browns. It's the only move, really.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him back in the fold. That's what we were hoping to get. If you get to a situation where you can rest your guys. So you got Obo Akaranko is back, it looks like. You can possibly get Grant Delpit back. And
Elijah Moore
got back, and you're looking to possibly see if Juan Thornhill can shake the calf injury and him come back. And it would be the first time we've seen in a while, pretty close to the starting defense being back intact. Obviously, Anthony Walker going on IR, but
and Hurst. I mean, those are the only two guys that played a lot that are out.
And
still
the timing is great. I mean, as much as we bemoaned all the injuries, and rightfully so during the regular season, the hope was all along, let's get these guys healthy and ready for the real season. And it looks like they're getting as close to that as they have been at any point in recent memory, anyhow. I have one question for you guys. Can Grant Delpit kick? My goodness.
We'll get.
I don't know.
We're going to talk about that in just a minute, but it doesn't sound like it's good news on that front for the Browns.
No, Kevin Stefanski said yesterday he is very unlikely to play. I mean, he would. Now, and what makes me nervous is even if they win, the fact that he's basically ruled him out on a Tuesday makes me worried that he wouldn't be ready next week.
I thought it was premature, and maybe it's gamesmanship. I mean, I don't know what they would have to gain by making Houston think we're not going to have our kicker. But I just felt it was odd for an injury like this that we know is week to week, that on Tuesday you're already ruling him out 5 days in advance.
We'll dive into the kicker in 1 sec, but I do have a question about Delpit. So he's designated to return. Let's say in a hypothetical world he is healthy and able to go on Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he takes one of the starting spots at safety. Who else would you start alongside Delpit at the other safety spot?
Well, Thornhill's healthy, right?
Well, he missed practice yesterday. He's been.
And the expectation is he will be
good to go. If he plays, if they're both ready to go, I assume they'll both start, and Ronnie Hickman will be rotated in. Now, neither one of those guys is going to be 100%.
Right.
Usually a safety is going to play almost every play. But I would think they would still, at least Ronnie Hickman, get in the mix a little bit. Don't you think?
I think Hickman might be the first guy off the bench. But here's another thing too. You look at Hickman and you look at DeAnthony Bell. Those are two of your special teams guys, right? So now those guys can really concentrate. If they're not going to play, they could be all out on special teams, and you're not going to worry about those guys getting gassed or whatever. But they'll rotate in. They'll get some get some snaps, because at the end of the day, you got a groin injury and a calf injury. You're not going to be playing every snap on a groin and a calf, especially with your first game back. They'll rotate in, and they'll pick their spots. Yeah. And I would expect that they would use Delpit more on rundowns as well, because you want him to be up in the box. It's quicker for him to attack than backpedal and have to cover people.
Yeah, and I think the reason for optimism, if you're the Browns, is if you have to go too deep at safety on the rotation, I think we all feel pretty good about that based on how they play.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
It's not like they're exposing a huge weakness.
We could complain about the injuries on offense plenty. The offense is missing a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Defensively, every team's got some injuries.
It's January.
At this point of the year, if the only guys the Browns are missing are Hurst and Walker, they're in great shape on defense. And that's important because that is the strength of this team.
Yeah.
As great as Joe Flacco has played, as much as the offense has been better, the strength of this team remains the defense. And they need that unit to be healthy, and right now they're getting very healthy. A couple other guys who didn't practice, yesterday, we don't want to panic about it. It's early in the week.
Right.
It's more like walkthrough. At running back, both Kareem Hunt and Pierre Strong didn't practice. For Kareem Hunt, it's probably no big deal. He's been basically hurt the whole year and fighting through it. We know he's tough.
You're giving him time off is what you're doing.
The interesting one is Strong because you say, well, he's the third running back, but you want to have three running backs.
You'll need them.
They could call up John Kelly from the practice squad. He's been around. He seems to have a big game every preseason, every year. Or they could sign somebody else. Wouldn't shock me if they signed somebody else today because Pierre Strong hurt his back. He got carted off. Hopefully, I like the guy. I keep wanting him to play. But if he doesn't practice today, you would think that either Kelly gets bumped up from the practice squad or they sign somebody because you don't want to have just two running backs.
No, you'll need three. I think you'll need three.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that they're going to be more pass heavy than run heavy.
Right, but
you still like to have three going in. Our first hello and good morning of the day to Mikey McNuggets. Hey, bud.
What's up, guys? It is becoming playoff time. It is so close. I can smell it. I cannot wait for this to happen. And if you have a second, make sure y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button because the UCSS fans are the best in the world.
Mike.
It is undisputed.
What's going on over by the door?
Something's construction happening. Whenever we'll just keep talking here while Anthony sends him out here. There we go. This is for you, G.
Oh, yeah!
Let's go!
It's the Kool-Aid Man!
Hey, what's up, bro? I didn't know you was coming in town. You didn't even holler at me, bro.
Holler at your boy.
Hey, man, I thought we was going to be able to surprise him. But listen, your mom's good? Everybody good? That's what's up, bro. That's what's up.
You knew about this?
Hey, listen.
No, he did not.
No, but this is my man's, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Listen, come over here and give me some dap, dog. Come over and give me some dap. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The Kool-Aid is alive and well, man. Listen, I'll tell you what, man. He came in town just for this Texans game.
That's right. Kool-Aid is in full effect.
Shouldn't he be in Houston?
No.
He's going to Houston Saturday.
He's going to. You got your tickets already?
After the first Browns touchdown, you're going to see a big red object jump the stands and run onto the field.
I can't see it.
No, you don't know who it is.
Hey, listen, we're ready to go, man. Listen, this is going to be great. Now, listen, I'll tell you what. Now, you get them first-class tickets, bro. We need that extra room space.
He needs 2 seats.
Extra leg space there.
He's fatter than me. I don't want to get stuck on the plane next to him.
No, he's just top-heavy. He's just top-heavy.
What they do is they deflate him for the flight. It's not pretty.
Hey, man,
very saggy.
You can only bring 4 fluid ounces on a plane, so I think the Kool-Aid Man might be taking a bus down to Houston.
He's got to fly in a cargo bin.
Hey, man, shout out to you, man. Hey, text me, man. Stop playing around. Text me. We'll link up, get some food later, all right?
Mike, do you want to explain this gag?
Mike?
Yeah, this is Superfan Butters.
Oh, that was the lie about the concussion?
About the construction.
The construction. Yeah, that was just to get Butters in here.
I had to carry it out. I had to carry it out upon entrance.
You knew about it.
I knew about it.
Oh, it's Butters.
That's fire.
Butters. Yeah,
That's fire. That's fire, Jay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I should have known it was Butters. He was sitting here before and he left.
Where'd he go?
Backstory, then we'll jump
turned into Kool-Aid.
We'll jump into the actual show. But Butters bought us the Kool-Aid that we put out.
Right.
He bought the costume when? Like after the
San Francisco game,
win.
he called me and goes, I just bought a 7-foot-tall Kool-Aid suit.
Yo.
Well done, Butters.
The playoffs,
Good job, Butters.
can I run through a wall? And I was like, of course. But then they clinched the playoff spot on a Thursday, which meant we couldn't do it on the Friday because we were way too busy. And then Monday after the Bengals game, it felt too somber. So we waited for G to be back. We waited for today, and I thought we executed pretty flawless.
Listen, this is fire. Now I'm ready. I'm definitely ready to go now.
Yeah. If you didn't already have the Kool-Aid,
ready to have the Kool-Aid fever
coursing in your veins.
Come on, man. Listen, you can take it out of my veins and put it right in the cup. It's ready to drink.
That is awesome.
Butters, well played, man. Really well played. Big fan of the show. It was his idea. He kind of coordinated it with Mike. Mike called me this morning to tell me what we were doing.
Crazy.
I love the fact that the ruse was they're going to be doing construction in the parking garage, so we had to put something up that would keep the reflection from coming in. Why is it a brick wall?
It was. I was like,
They didn't
totally
question it, though.
suckered by it.
Yeah.
y'all got me.
I said to Mike, are we going to be able to get our cars out of the garage?
No, Kool-Aid's going to block the gate. Oh, that was
fun.
perfect.
Well done, guys.
That
Well
was perfect. Yeah, really good job.
All right, well, let's hop into our first topics, but now the real stuff, no more gags.
Oh, my God.
FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. There is no doubt about it, and if you want to get in on the playoff action with FanDuel, you can still because it is America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. We're starting with the Dustin Hopkins situation, though. You guys alluded to it a second ago, but on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 2.5-point spread according to FanDuel. The starting kicker for the Browns may be out. How much of a concern is that to you guys, Bull? You want to start?
On a scale of 1 to 10,
You said you wanted one.
I mean, it's a pretty big deal. This is an 8 on the concern level.
I'm with you. I think it is too. People are kind of brushing this off. They were yesterday in the newsroom. They're like, hey, we got another kicker. It's not like we don't have another
kicker?
We don't have that kicker.
Now, the only thing is, we don't know. Maybe Riley Patterson in the big spot will come through. Maybe he will. But with
Someone
Dustin,
told me yesterday he's 3 for 3 with playoff kicks.
right?
That is accurate.
With Jackson.
Okay.
With Jackson.
Yeah, we like that. I mean,
But here's the thing. Think about Kevin Stefanski, guys. We know Kevin Stefanski is an extremely aggressive coach. He likes to go for it on 4th down. He likes to blow off punts. He's very ultra aggressive, right? We'd agree on that?
yeah.
Well, there were times this year where, and part of the reason he's a factor in that aggressiveness, obviously there's a lot of factors, but one of the factors in his aggressiveness is, until this year, the Browns have had crappy kickers
Yep.
that he didn't trust.
So you're more likely to go for it.
Right. Yeah. Now, if he grew to trust Dustin Hopkins, you don't develop that trust in 1 week.
Sure.
You develop it over time. By the late of the year, he completely trusted Dustin Hopkins to the point where he'd let him attempt almost any kick, right?
Yeah.
Close to 60 yards.
Yeah.
I think he made a 58-yard or 59-yard or something like
58
that.
against Indy.
How long was it?
58
He had
against Indy.
3
58
over
yards.
50 at Indy.
Okay.
Like,
Now think about where you're playing. You're playing in Houston. It's climate controlled,
Yep.
right? That's a stadium where, hey, it's halftime. I could try a 59-yard field goal. If he has Dustin Hopkins, he's going to try that 59-yard field goal.
Yeah.
With this guy, there's no chance he's going to do that.
Nope.
I mean, you may be in a situation where you have no choice but to try, but if there's an option,
That's
he's
game
going to
ending.
take the other
At
option.
the end of the half, no, because you don't want to risk a return.
Right.
That, when you're kicking from that distance, that's a returnable kick.
And so ultimately, yes, that could make a difference. Now, if Riley Patterson makes his kicks, it's fine. But just going into the game, and maybe ultimately it helps the Browns to be more aggressive in this game. We won't know until the game is played. But to at least a small degree, this change at kicker not only affects the confidence we have in the Browns kicking game, but it will, at least to a small degree, potentially change how Kevin Stefanski coaches this game.
I would agree with that. Can we put Riley Patterson's stats up again? That said that those were his 2023 stats.
Yes, that's correct.
He kicked that many extra points?
Detroit scored a lot of points.
He was playing for the Lions for most of the year.
When I'm looking at that, why was he cut?
So here's what happened.
Yeah, Bull, explain it.
So,
Hell, the guy's just as good as our guy.
right. Now, he didn't attempt a lot of field goals. Our guy, extra points and field goals, big difference.
Because they were scoring touchdowns.
How many field goals did he attempt? Over 50 yards, Mike.
Let me pull up 1 sec.
So here's what happened. I read this. So the Lions, for the last 6 weeks that he was kicking for them,
Yeah.
in practice, they would have a competition because they had I can't think of who the kicker was.
A kicker on their practice
They
squad.
had a kicker on their practice squad,
Right.
another
Michael
veteran
Badgley.
guy. I can't
Right.
think of his name.
Michael Badgley.
Michael Badgley, who used to be on the Chargers, right? So for the last 6 weeks, this is according to their coaching staff, the last 6 weeks that Riley Patterson was there, in practice, Badgley was consistently out-kicking him in practice. And eventually, even though he didn't really do anything to lose the job because he didn't miss a lot of kicks.
No.
Eventually, they felt like knowing they were going to playoffs that they trusted Badgley.
Wow, what a gutsy
more than
move.
Patterson.
I mean, that's almost unprecedented.
Right, it wasn't like he was.
You released a kicker who's got Pro Bowl stats.
Well, I mean,
what's wrong with that? Put the stat line up
it's just
again.
not enough field goals.
He's missed, out of 68 kicks, he's missed five.
Yeah, but you can't.
Show our stats. I know the long ones make a difference.
Together. Yeah.
I know the long ones make a difference, but if you put the stats side by side, now you say we tried a lot fewer field goals.
Yeah.
Because Detroit scores touchdowns.
I know, but
I think
an extra point is a gimme.
It is, but I mean, he was 16 of 18. It's not like the guy was missing one kick after another.
He was only 1 for 2 on kicks over 50.
So they obviously didn't trust him on 50-yard field goals.
You know what? It's one of those moves that if you're a Lions fan, you better hope you don't lose a playoff game on a late kick, because that's a question mark to me. I just don't know. Usually there's glaring evidence to cut a kicker. We had it. We saw it in real time.
It seems clear they didn't trust him to make 50-yard kicks.
Look, they have more input than we do, or intel. They see him every day in practice.
If we watched every single kick from him for the Lions, we just went on YouTube and it was like, here's his kicks. And you watch his kicks, you'd be like, oh, okay, I saw you make them. Put him in the game.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Our guy went 1 for 1 for over 50 yards, Mike.
Dustin Hopkins is 8 for 8.
He didn't miss.
He's 8 for 8. That guy's 1 for 2. Most kickers are going to make kicks under 50 yards.
Look,
prior to us getting
I only really care.
Prior to us getting
I hear you, but
he wasn't making 50 yards either.
We could talk ourselves into anything.
He was
50%. Do you trust Riley Patterson as much as you trust?
You know what? After seeing those stats, I trust him more now than I did. Perfectly honesty, in all transparency. Typically, when a kicker is picked up off the junk heap, there's a reason he was there. I don't know that I can ever remember an instance where a kicker was cut mid-season without missing a plethora of kicks. We've seen it a million times.
Yeah, I hear you.
Guys get in the rut where they just can't make it. By talking about kickers, the Dallas kicker who hadn't missed a kick in his career missed 2 in his last game.
Sounds like what happened to them
Hope they don't
2
cut
years
him.
ago.
This is like playing blackjack at the casino. Listen, you just got to hope for that if you play the optimum strategy, that they'll hit a certain amount of field goals. For me, it may change your strategy. But it's one of those things where if you're a coach, you go to your offense, and this is the good thing about having veterans, right? You go to Flacco and say, all right, listen, we got a kicker we don't know much about. Here's what we want to do. In certain downs and distance, we're going to be more aggressive. There's going to be times where I'm going to call a third down play, and that third down play is going to be put in so that we could get a certain amount of yards, maybe 4 or 5 yards, so we could go for it on 4th down.
Right.
And the kicker's going to be auditioning in real time in the game. So the confidence meter isn't about what he did before. It's the confidence meter what he did today.
Yeah.
So if he misses a chip shot.
Well, he's missed already.
Well, he did miss, but he bounced back very well in that game after his first miss.
If he misses a chip shot, then I might have to be like, okay, we might be going forward on short yardage.
It definitely changes Kevin Stefanski's mindset. To Bull's point, there's certain times you're going to go for it if you don't feel your kicker has the leg, and there's certain times you're going to kick if you feel that your kicker's going to be good from inside of 58 yards.
And generally speaking, I'm for the way my playoff mindset works. I'm for more aggressive. When you're playing against these teams, everybody has a quarterback.
Right.
All of them.
Yeah.
So if you're up 14 points, you're up 10 points, that ain't no big lead. You got to be aggressive.
Yeah.
You got to finish games.
And G, wouldn't you agree it's easier to be aggressive with the defense that Kevin Stefanski has?
Yep.
I'm okay going with it.
Yep.
Typically, I am a field position guy, typically.
Yeah,
but there's so many things that you can't just say, oh, you're at the 43, you got to go for it. You have to go, got to go. No, there's so many factors. What kind of game is it? What kind of game do you expect it to be? Is it going to be a low-scoring game where 3 points will win it or lose it?
Right.
So all of that factors in. It drives me nuts when Troy Aikman on Monday Night Football constantly says, the ESPN analytics say you've got to go for it. What the analytics don't tell you are the things we just mentioned. It's got to be analytic and situational driven. And when you marry those, and by the way, I think Kevin Stefanski does as good a job at that as anybody. He does a really good job of marrying the situation with the analytics, and I love the way he uses all of that. But I do expect him, to your point, to be aggressive in this game.
Got to be aggressive. And like this was a game where I much prefer guys get out to a quick start and put teams behind the 8 ball,
right.
17, 20 points, because then it changes the way they think about the game too. So I'm all for being more aggressive.
Listen, Riley Patterson, you know how many field goal attempts he has of more than 39 yards this season?
No.
4.
I can't. Yeah, but maybe situationally they just weren't set up to kick a lot.
They didn't trust him. I mean, that seems
they
pretty
clearly
obvious.
didn't. They cut him. I mean, they didn't trust him, and they've cut him.
3 of 4. He went 3 for 4 on kicks over 39 yards. Dustin Hopkins is 22 of 25 in kicks over 39 yards. I mean, there's no way there's no apples to apples here because he made a bunch of extra points.
What were the touchdowns for each team? Detroit scored a lot more touchdowns. I would guess double-digit more touchdowns than we did.
I'll look into that, but I was looking at his numbers from Jacksonville last year. He was Jacksonville's full-time kicker, and he kicked in Detroit first, by the way, for 7 games.
And then Jacksonville.
And
when he's been in Detroit, he's never been the kicker.
By the way, there's no easier place to kick than Detroit.
Yeah.
His numbers in Jacksonville, and the only reason I look at this is I was like, oh, he must have a bad year, and they moved on because he was 30 for 35 and 36 at 37 from extra points in Jacksonville. So
you keep bringing up the
extra
extra points as if
what about field goals?
Everybody's 35 and 36.
Say it again, Bull.
Everybody, you keep bringing. Who cares
extra
about the extra points?
Everybody
I was just saying, he only missed. Yeah, it's not like he had.
Whoa! What you mean? Everybody make extra points?
Yeah, not everybody. What were his field goal stats, and what was his range in Jacksonville?
In Jacksonville, he was 8 of 8 within 30, 10 of 11 from 30 to 39. 10 of 13 from 40 to 49. I'm 2 and 3 for 50. 53 is his longest kick.
That's not bad.
Which is why
if you're 67% from, I know it's a very small sample size, but
which is why I was surprised Jacksonville was just okay moving on.
Yeah, there must be something. There must be something going on there.
It's clear he doesn't have a good long leg. Detroit never let him kick kickoffs. They had their punter doing kickoffs.
Probably because he couldn't reach the goal line.
He doesn't have a long leg, and you're not trying 50-yard field goals with this
guy.
We're
going to have to. He's going to have to do kickoffs for us.
Right,
so
he did. He has.
That might be a factor in the game.
And he did it for Jacksonville too.
How many times did he reach the end zone during his kickoffs? How many were touchbacks?
All I know is I don't trust this guy over 50. Certainly not over 50 yards.
I trust him a lot more than I did before I knew those numbers. I didn't look back.
But you can't trust him over 50. Because
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
And
but
that's where it matters.
But 42-yard field goal. I'm not going to be Cade York, edge of my seat. What were the percentage of his kickoffs that went for touchbacks? Do we know that?
I got to go. That's in a whole different stat.
Well,
I'll find it for you by the end of the show.
Yeah. The evidence is pointing towards the fact that he doesn't have a big leg on kickoff.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't have on field goals either.
He's a serviceable guy. We're going to depend on him.
Hopefully.
To do his
hell,
job.
I know that Houston didn't have C.J. Stroud, but we beat Houston at Houston without a kicker.
Hey, man, we've been playing with backups.
Literally no kicker.
We've been
That's
playing.
That's a pretty big
I know
difference.
C.J. Stroud wasn't there, but
we've been playing with backups all year. There's another backup plan. Get your job done.
Well, that's a great segue to our next topic, which, before we get to, I want one more quick read from FanDuel. But the NFL season may be wrapping up. There's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. There's new bets in the Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best and easiest way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. G, you mentioned the injuries. At this point, do you consider the Browns to be playing with house money because of the number of injuries they've overcome, or because the AFC is completely up in the air, topsy-turvy? They have a hot quarterback, the #1 defense. They have veterans playing towards the end of the contract. Do you look at this playoff run as potentially the best chance for the Browns to win a Super Bowl in their current championship window?
Yes. I think that the Browns had an opportunity. You look at everything, the way everything fell. Take a look at a lot of injuries around the league. They got into the playoffs. They're a 5th seed. And they get Joe Flacco, who's a guy who has some experience. He has an arm. He's hot right now. You look at it having the best defense in the league. You got a pass rusher. You got the best corners that I think are moving out there right now. So your defense is built to stop people. And on top of that, you look at the way you got your draw. Like, The Browns have beaten multiple teams that are top teams in the NFL right now. And you look at around the league, Patrick Mahomes has not been playing like Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen and the Bills, they kind of backed their way into a 2 seed. But they haven't really been playing like a normal 2 seed and dominating people and getting there.
They've been really hot lately.
Well, you can't say they backed their way into.
Yeah, no, I think they kicked the door down.
They played great down the
seed.
stretch.
Yeah.
They played poorly early in the season.
Philadelphia backed their way into a playoff spot.
So if you look at it, one team started off hot and fell off, and another team started off a little slow. But I don't think I would say not backed their way in. They haven't been consistent all year.
It wasn't a typical Bills season.
It wasn't a consistent season where they've had relatively good play on both sides of the football throughout. You look at the Miami Dolphins, they've been hit with injuries. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're kind of like, okay, that's not a typical Steelers team. I look at it from the roster makeup and the standpoint that this year is the best year to catch people slipping. Right now, if I look at an AFC, there's no dominant team, and the team that is the best team, the Ravens, you've beat before, and it's in a division from your opponent. So I think this year, by far, is one of the best years that the ball has bounced in the way it fell, that they get an opportunity.
So maybe I misread the question. Are we projecting forward, like this is the best year right now for our champion? Because the way it was written, it made me think that you were kind of saying that a lot of these elements are going to fall off next year.
Or could.
I
Projecting forward.
think could is the way.
I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Amari Cooper. They'll likely restructure. We don't know what's going to happen with Nick Chubb. So maybe I misread the question. I thought you were saying we better do it now because this will be easier this year than future
that's
years.
what he's asking. Do you feel that way?
Okay, so
I guess the way, maybe I worded it wrong, but considering how everything is lined up, you have a red-hot quarterback, a great defense.
Yeah, you better win it now.
Up in the air.
Is that what you're saying?
Do you feel like this could be, and it's an impossible question to answer because we don't know what's going to happen next year.
We don't.
But because of how the stars have aligned here,
I see.
Do you feel like this could be the Browns' best chance in whatever their championship
I hope
window
not,
is?
because if this is, that means the window's closing. And I think the window typically doesn't stay open very long. It just depends on, a lot of different circumstances with player salaries and your quarterback situation and how much he's making and how long you have him under contract for. My hope is that the window is now at its peak. We've felt like in the past few years that our window of opportunity was opening. I would like to think now that it's at its peak, but I would like to think that we could maintain that for at least another year and maybe 2. And the biggest part of this equation is, what is Deshaun Watson going to be? If Deshaun Watson plays up to his contract, then absolutely not, this isn't our best year, because Deshaun Watson, I'm told, has elite ability and can play at the level that can bring a championship to town. So it better not be our best chance, and the window better not be closing. If so, the Haslams wasted a whole lot of money and a lot of draft picks for nothing.
I look at it as a standpoint, not just on their roster. Look at the breaks they got. So, just in the division, Joe Burrow didn't play the whole year.
Right.
So that's a team that's a contender that just got wiped out.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers didn't play the whole year. We assume Aaron Rodgers can still play football. Jets, whole season finished. So there's a lot of teams. Justin Herbert had a horrible coach. Next, he's going to still throw for 4,000. So next year, that team may be better than they are.
Sure.
So I think there's a lot of things that go into it. Pittsburgh don't have a quarterback. So, those teams can figure it out kind of quickly. And next year, the Bengals will be the Bengals, and by the way, they won 9 games this year?
Yeah.
So you're in the toughest division. You got a whole bunch of people coming back next year that you still have
So you're not necessarily looking at it from the Browns standpoint. You're looking at it from the macro and just the environment that is the AFC right now.
Even if you say,
I would agree with that.
Even if you say that the Browns will be at the same level next year.
Everybody else is coming up.
Maybe not everybody, but
some of the downtrodden.
Right, you would assume at least that the Jets, Kansas City, and the Bengals will all be better next year.
Yes.
Now, they may not be, but you would assume they will all be.
I think to G's point, the Chargers will too. I mean, we saw what Harbaugh was able to do with an NFL-style offense in San Francisco. He took that team to the Super Bowl. He's got a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I think if they get Harbaugh, I think the Chargers might be the team that makes the biggest jump next year.
And what if Pittsburgh gets Russell Wilson? I know Russell Wilson's not great, but he's certainly better than what they got. What if they got Justin Fields? Again, better than what they got. So the Pittsburgh could be better too.
Yeah.
I agree. Listen, I hope that a year from now we're laughing at the fact that maybe this was their best chance to win.
I hope so too.
But when the best part of your team is your defense, that's harder to predict from year to year.
It is.
Yes.
Because there's more guys that have to play well. When the most important part of your team is the quarterback, there's generally, unless he gets hurt, less margin for error. You know that, like, even this is a bad year for Kansas City. They're still the 3 seed.
Yeah.
And it's a bad year. You know, Patrick Mahomes, it feels like he had a bad season. He still made the Pro Bowl. Now, you and I may agree that he doesn't belong in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, he doesn't.
But he's close enough.
Sure.
That he's not, like, down the tubes.
Right.
So that's the thing. If the big unknown is Deshaun Watson.
Right. That's it. He's the
When
X
the Browns
factor.
traded for Deshaun Watson, I was very excited because I was like, the Browns finally have a premier quarterback. But he clearly hasn't played at that level with any consistency for 2 years. If he does, then this is not the best chance potentially.
Right.
If he doesn't, then yes. Which is so funny because the reality is that what's funny is when Deshaun Watson got hurt, we convinced ourselves the season wasn't over. And it turned out we were right. The season's not over.
Right.
But we're only right because of Joe Flacco. That's the reality.
1,000%.
Because if they had just gone
PJ
with PJ
or
and DTR, the Browns weren't going anywhere.
No.
And
They may have still made the playoffs,
Right.
but we weren't going to be we're talking about them as a legit Super Bowl contender. We all believe that. I can't imagine that if DTR or PJ Walker were the quarterback right now, that I'd truly believe
Unless DTR showed such rapid
Huge growth.
acceleration.
Huge
And
growth.
by the way, I do think he was showing maturation.
Yeah, but not like this.
But
I mean, you know.
to the level that Joe Flacco has played,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
it's so funny how even when he's not in the conversation, he's in the conversation, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Because you cannot project this team's future without trying to figure out what you're going to get from a guy that you have no idea what you're going to get from.
That's right.
We don't know.
I mean, do I think the defense is going to be really good again next year? Yeah, I think it's going to be really good, but it might not be quite as good. For what you like, part of you says, well, they'll be healthier next year, so they'll be better. But you just, for whatever, the chemistry right now in this team is fantastic. And maybe it's going to be fantastic again next year. It might be, but you never know.
I know.
The new year, you never know.
But for all those that say, you know, we talk about chemistry.
Yeah.
If we're going to tout Stefanski, don't you have to trust him? Like, don't you have to think that, okay, he's shown you this year, I could do things with a lot of quarterbacks.
Oh, no, there's complete trust.
Like, so for me, I don't expect them to come back next year and fall all the way off. I expect him to still play at a high level because he's shown you consistently. It doesn't really matter what quarterback it is.
Right.
I could get it done. And there's a lot of coaches who get that cachet. We talk about Mike Tomlin all the time. We talk about Harbaugh, how they just consistently, even though they have the best years, they don't have a quarterback, they don't have a lot of things, they still manage a way to get it done. Maybe for us, we have that guy, Kevin Stefanski, and you got to give him the benefit of the doubt going into the season.
There is a little bit of sample size to work with here, though, because after the 11-5 playoff season in 20, and we thought then, you know, we were talking, well, they're going to be a AFC contender, if not the number 2 or 3 favorite, based on how they played Kansas City, and they went all the way back to 7-9. Now, granted, Baker was hurt and the quarterback play was bad, but Stefanski was still the guy running the offense and running the show, and they went from 11-7 in one season. It can happen, but I to your point, I totally trust Stefanski. I want to ask you guys quickly, this is off topic, but I read about it this morning, and I really want to get your thoughts on it. There is a real rift going on with the New York Giants between Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale. In fact, when Daboll fired a set of brothers that were Wink Martindale's right and left-hand man on his defensive coaching staff that he brought with him from Baltimore, it was against Wink Martindale's suggestion. He did not want them fired. Daboll felt that there was a power struggle going on in the organization, and he felt like the 3 of them were trying to assert their power over Daboll. So Daboll fired the 2 brothers. Well, that didn't sit well with Wink Martindale. He said his piece in a private meeting. This is according to a report in New York. Pounded the table, got up, left the room, slammed the door, flew back to his home in Sarasota, and the Giants haven't heard from him. I only bring that up because we know the draw and the mecca that New York is. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for Jim Schwartz as a head coach.
He's not been connected to any teams
and,
at this point.
And I've talked to a couple of people, and again, we mentioned this on the show. Look at the hot names even now. They're young offensive minds. That's the du jour, the coach du jour in the NFL right now. I'm asking you guys this because the Giants have some pieces. Clearly, the defensive unit of the Giants was their strong point this year. When I read that, I'm like, uh-oh. Martindale's going to walk, and Daboll is going to call Jim Schwartz to be his defensive coordinator.
I'm not worried about it at all. I don't know why he'd leave. No,
well, you would leave because it's Cleveland and New York.
Yeah, but I don't know that football coaches care about that in terms it's not like the Giants are going to pay him more. Jimmy Haslam's got a ton of money. He can pay him whatever the hell he wants.
I think for him it's not about pay. I think and you guys will understand this because we lived it in Cleveland with Greg Williams. Oftentimes, coordinators will move to jobs where they think the coach there is on his last leg. Because then the ascension it's a natural progression, particularly if that move happens in season. And Brian Daboll is on his last bit of oxygen in New York. They're not going to fire him this offseason, but I'm told he's dangling by a thread. So if I'm Jim Schwartz, I know the Browns aren't. Kevin Stefanski is not dangling by a thread.
No, I hear you.
But Daboll is, and that would be an easy progression for him to become a head coach again.
If you're Jim Schwartz, do you want to be a defensive-minded coach in New York without a quarterback? Ask Salo about that.
No, he wants to be a head coach. That's
but
what
I'm just saying, if he is to the head coach,
I get what
they
you're
don't
saying.
They don't have a quarterback.
I didn't think about it from that angle. It's a good point, but I think ultimately, I don't know that after Wink Martindale, a very well-respected DC, is bumping heads with the coach. Does he want to deal with that nonsense at this point?
No.
He might have the same problem.
We don't know. I can't jump in his head, but I do know the motivation of coordinators is to ascend to be a head coach. Yeah. And I thought it was really telling last week when talking to the media that Jim Schwartz could have answered that question a million different ways.
Yeah.
He went the way he did because he wants his name out there.
Sure.
Now, I did some poking around. I'm sure you guys did as well. His name is not out there.
Not out there at
all. On all of the vacancies that are currently open in the NFL, his name is not being whispered about any of them.
Not a lot of veteran coaches are at all, except for Harbaugh.
At his age, there is a sense of urgency. If I'm going to do it again, it better be in the next year or two.
I just feel like I can't worry about it. If it happens,
it
happens.
I don't. Listen, I don't want to sit here. I'm not biting my nails over it.
You could hire Wink Martindale.
You could. And you know what? I think that might be a swap that New York.
Let's ask Leroy about it. What do you think?
Yeah, let's bring in Leroy here real quick before we get to Leroy. If you are watching the chat, we appreciate you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Completely free. It costs you $0, 0 cents, and helps UCSS reach the biggest audience possible. So do us a favor, run up the like count. If you're not a member or a subscriber already, hit that subscribe button. It's completely free. We appreciate you guys. And with that, let's welcome in the national champ himself. That is Leroy Hoard.
Leroy, looking young again.
Welcome in the alum of the national champ.
Tyvus took a couple of days off. He didn't want to deal with it.
Tyvus been hot lately, Leroy. He been spicy.
Hey, congratulations, though. Congratulations,
man.
Well,
I tell you what, even for me, I'm not like, I talk trash to Tyvus because he went to Ohio State. But I'm not that. I think my team's going to win because it's my team. But what they did the last 3 games of the season, by far, was impressive even to me.
Last 4 games.
4, yeah.
You go Ohio State, Iowa, you go Alabama, who's number 4, and then you go Washington. And you dominated them. It wasn't like that Alabama game, when the game started, you're like, oh boy, what is Alabama going to do? Right? When that game started with Washington, and I tell you when I didn't have a worry in the world, when Michigan ran their first play, and that big offensive line walked up to the line of scrimmage, and they took the shot from behind, and I couldn't see no Washington defenders.
Oh, my goodness.
Because that offensive line was so massive. I'm like, oh, my goodness. Big boy football. And then to take it one step further, I don't know how people watch defense in college, but if you watch Michigan the last couple of weeks, that was a pro style of defense.
Yeah. Well,
with
their guy came
with all the disguises, with the guys walking up to the line of scrimmage and dropping out, with guys coming from multitude of areas, with guys running games up front. That was a professional, schemed defense.
Leroy,
and it was fun to watch.
Leroy, when I saw it, I think this is going to change. Man, everybody be talking about these quarterbacks and throwing the ball everywhere. Listen, man, it's a universal law. If you got dudes in the trenches, there is nothing you can do about it. I played D-line, and I got up there. One year we played against Lawrence Maroney and Marion Barber at Minnesota. It was on ESPN. And the OU Bobcats, we had a home game against a Big Ten team, and guess what? They destroyed that tape, Leroy. Because Marion Barber got about 150, Lawrence Maroney had 175, and all they was doing is climbing to the next level with guards and tackles. And our coach came in and said, listen, we're going to move on to Northern Illinois. Like, we'll move on to Northern, we get rid of. But when you do that, when you got that, I don't care what you got. It's done data, Dunsky.
It is, and it's amazing how we talk about football in general at all levels. And it still boils down to that one basic concept, and every coach will tell you that.
It's the point of attack. You win
right.
there,
now,
you have a chance of winning everywhere.
Now, my man Jim Schwartz ain't going nowhere.
Listen, comfort me. Tell me why.
Yeah.
Here's why. Because you want a coach. First of all, there's only a handful of premium jobs. There's one thing to be a head coach. There's another thing to be a successful head coach. Mm-hmm. Okay? You can go take a job and say, I was a head coach. But your ass ain't going to be there much longer. Right? Because if you don't have a quarterback, if you don't have the infrastructure, you're just bound for bad things to happen. This is what's happening to a lot of coaches. That's why what DeMeco Ryans is doing is so impressive. So very impressive. Because does anybody remember what Houston was 2 years ago?
No. Yeah, trash.
I do. And he took that job with a rookie quarterback. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, the last time it happened was the 40s, where a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback went to the playoffs.
You don't have to go back 2 years, Leroy. They sucked last year.
Right. And so from that standpoint, when you see these coaching jobs, I think right now, all these coaches that are looking for head coaching jobs are looking in one place, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers.
Sure. Why would you want anywhere else?
You got a quarterback. That defense should not be that bad, right? No. With all the talent they got on that defense. And you got a quarterback. That should be appealing to anybody who wants to be a head coach.
Hey, Leroy, as a Michigan fan, do you have what do you want to see happen with Harbaugh? And ultimately, if he does leave, is that where he's going?
As the ultimate competitor, I would like him to stay and have people have to talk about him for an entire year and say, no matter what you did to me, no matter what you tried to do to us, we still persevere. And there's something to be said about that.
You think he'll stay?
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be mad if he left. Like, I wouldn't be mad if he left because, you know what? He took some abuse the last few years, right? Why wasn't he turning it around? So why wasn't it happening? And I'm going to be honest with you, right? Let's not act like Michigan won 5 national championships. The last national championship was 97, and the last outright one was 1948. Woo. So what we're talking about here, right, and turning this thing around was remarkable in itself. That he turned it around, got him to the playoff, 3 out of 4 years, right? and finally won a championship, that's turning around a university. That's turning around a program.
Right.
So right now, when the season starts, guess who you got to include in the hunt? Michigan. That's turning a university and a program around. So if he decides to leave after, just all of the nonsense that he had to go through, I wouldn't be mad at him. I get it. I get how if you just want to coach football, all the minutia wears on you and you get tired of it, and you know that I'm not going to have all this nonsense at the next level, right? I get it. I mean, think about it. Like, of all the coaches in the world, of all the success that Michigan has not had in the last, since 97, right? And they asked that man to take a pay cut. How much you think that plays into it?
Let's transition and get to these Browns. You being in the playoffs, as a player, I'm trying to get the mindset and let everybody know what's the different mindset that you think the Browns have to have when they go from regular season to playoffs. Because one thing that we haven't talked about is, yes, they have veterans, but they have not had those veterans have not had a lot of playoff experience. Can you tell the people the difference in your mind state from regular season to postseason in terms of the players and the coaching staff and the way they approach the game?
Well, you approach it this way. You have to be ready for anything, because there's something to be said when everybody's back is against the wall. I don't care what your record is. I don't care what your seeding is. If you lose, you go home. So everybody's playing with that same pressure, right? It don't matter if you 13-4. It don't matter if you 12-5. It don't matter if you 9-8. Everybody goes home if you lose. So basically what you do is you concentrate on the little things. You make sure you're getting plenty of rest. You make sure you're getting your film study. And you need to know that I need to bring my best, because I know this team I'm playing this weekend got the same kind of pressure that we have. Now, here's the difference with Houston, right? Ignorance is bliss. Them boys just playing football. They don't have the pressures that the Browns have on them, because they wasn't even supposed to be here. Did anybody think the Houston Texans would be hosting the playoff game this year? No. Absolutely not.
But
so
you could say the same thing about the Browns, though, too, right? They didn't expect to be here.
The Browns are not hosting.
Before the season started, the expectations were that the Browns would be a playoff team. Now, how they got
on
there,
the fringe at least,
right? How they got there is a bit unique and special, going through 4 quarterbacks. But the fact of the matter is the Browns, to some extent, or where everybody thought they would be, having a chance to play in the playoffs, right? So, but Houston, their coach can go in there and say, let's just do what we do. Now, the last time Cleveland played Houston was Will Anderson, did not play. Okay. C.J. Stroud did not play. Okay, so you are playing a different team. That team is totally different when C.J. Stroud is on the field, both offensively and defensively. They're just different. So I hope that going into this game, you just dismiss everything that you have seen the last time you played them and know that this is a playoff team. They're playing at home. They're fired up and they're young, and they might be so young that they don't play with the pressures that you playing with in this playoff game. They just out there freewheeling it.
By the way, when Leroy earlier, I was looking something up on my phone because Leroy said something, and I was like, I thought Bernie did this. When you said that the Texans were the first team in forever to go to the playoffs with a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback, I was thinking that Bernie did it with Marty Schottenheimer, but I forgot that Marty Schottenheimer took over in the middle of the '84 season.
Yes.
I had forgotten about that. But It was close.
It was his first
full season, and it was Bernie's rookie year. So which is pretty impressive. I believe that '85 Browns team won the division with an 8-8 record, right? I think it was a bad division that year, if I remember correctly. But anyway, that was close. But you're right. I mean, D'Amico Ryans and Kevin Stefanski are 1A, 1B for Coach of the Year. I don't think there's I don't think there's any doubt about it.
For different reasons, though. For different reasons. Yes. I think the way D'Amico Ryans has rallied those young men and the way he has a quarterback playing and that defense, that is remarkable in his first year. And what Kevin Stefanski has done, and remember, I've been saying this for the last couple of years. One of the things you can't dispute about Kevin Stefanski, whoever plays quarterback for the Cleveland Browns usually plays the best version of quarterback they've ever played.
Except for Watson.
He's got to get a run. He's got to get some run, right? And that's the only problem. Like, you get 5 weeks out of him, and then he's hurt. He got hurt, right? He came back after not playing for 2 years. Like, I think a full season of Deshaun Watson, we will see the best version of Deshaun Watson. And guess what?
Well, that's the hope. If it is,
but guess what? But guess what? I have history on my side. So everybody can say what they want, but I got the man who has done it to a number of quarterbacks.
Yep. Can't lie about that.
I mean, hell, even Joe Flacco.
Right.
Leroy, right now, obviously, we're talking, you certainly want C.J. Stroud rather than Joe Flacco going forward. But right now, for this game, if you consider, as great as C.J. Stroud's been, we all argued that I'd rather have Joe Flacco right now because playoff experience versus a rookie, even though the rookie's been as one of the best rookies we've ever seen. Are we crazy, or would you rather have Stroud right now?
First of all, experience is overrated.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
Because
rookie quarterbacks have a bad record in the playoffs.
When that game starts, right, here's what being a veteran does. When the game starts, you can settle down and play it just as a football game. You take away all the ancillary things going on about the game. Oh, this is a playoff game. This is the biggest game of my career. This is the best. You eliminate all that because once the game starts, you're just playing football. Younger players tend to make the circumstances surrounding the game more important than the game. And that's the only thing I'll say about that. But if you're a young player or you've never been in the playoffs and you get into the flow of the game and you just play football, then it doesn't matter. Your talent will show. Now, I would say this about C.J. Stroud. And here's the only reason why I would say I'd take C.J. Stroud. You see that third number?
Yeah.
That's it.
Impressive.
That's it.
That is
because I would say this. The downfall of the Cleveland Browns is going to be the fact that they led the league in turnovers.
At some point, you're saying that's going to be a fatal flaw.
Likely.
And I don't here's the thing. I don't know when it's going to happen, but here's where you look at the numbers and say, okay, what has to change for the Cleveland Browns to make a run?
You're absolutely right.
And I would say that one thing. I don't care about the rushing yards. I don't care about the throwing yards. But if you have that defense and you don't turn the ball over and give the other team a short field, you got a chance to beat any team in the NFL. And guess what? There's only one team that beat the number one seed in the NFC and the number one seed in the AFC.
You're right.
There's only one team.
That's right.
Only one team. So while everybody's talking about how they're going to do this, how they're going to do that, and whatever, I'm not going to dismiss that. I'm not going to dismiss the fact that busted up, injured, quarterback, whatever, they beat the number one seed in the NFC and the number one seed in the AFC, which means every game that they go into, they got the belief that we can beat anybody in the NFL.
Now, the Ravens could say the same thing. They can't play themselves, so they beat the Niners, and they beat the Browns also. So they could say the same thing as the Browns.
Sure.
But Leroy, I'm curious. You know, obviously you didn't make the playoffs as a rookie, but I think it was your fourth, fifth year in the league when you made the playoffs? Go ahead.
If you would have flipped our record, I would have made it. Hey,
yeah, you guys are terrible at it.
This is no lie.
Yeah.
I lost more games my rookie year in the NFL than I lost in high school and college put together.
Oh my God.
That has to be tough to take. How do you so two questions. One, how do you motivate yourself in that situation, especially late in the year? And number two, when you did get to the playoffs, I think it was in your fourth, fifth year, after that you kind of went consistently to the playoffs between with the Browns and then eventually Minnesota. But what was that first experience like? I mean, it's different. He's a rookie. You weren't a rookie. But so give us both those things if you can.
The excitement, because we had a home game. They did the seedings differently. The excitement of going to the stadium. Like Bush, you know that feeling. You know that special game, and you get to the stadium, you get all tingly, you fired up, and you still got 2 hours before game time.
Leroy,
and you gotta
if they could bottle that up and sell it over the counter, we'd be all at it.
Hey, I'm telling you, there is no better feeling in the world to play in an environment like that. To
you
go
saying
to
it's
the
better
game.
than sex, Leroy? Is that what you're saying?
No, hell no.
Oh, I thought you said there's no better feeling.
You said there's no better feeling.
I mean, that would include sex.
There's no better feeling outside my bedroom.
Well said.
We ain't talking about eating pie. What you talking about, dude? We talking about no.
This is what I get. It's what I get.
Well, you took us there, damn it.
I actually meant pie.
This
I knew.
Y'all out of pocket, both of y'all.
All right.
Yeah, like why y'all gotta go? But I'm telling you, and here's the other thing.
Because we're in junior
Here's
high.
what you have to
Always
understand.
gotta go there.
5-year-old.
When you go to a game, right? A playoff game. First of all, you're the only show on TV, so the camera crews, the media, everything is ramped up. It is packed. The fans are crazy. They come tailgate an extra hour early, right? It is so much fun, right? To be able to win a game at home too. Oh my goodness, it was unbelievable.
Yesterday we debated, and I tend to think that it does make a difference. Bull was like, I don't think it does. I wonder where you are because you've experienced it. I feel like because C.J. Stroud played at a blue blood university where he was a part of massive games that had 100,000 people in the stands. He played in the national championship game against Georgia, 23 of 34, 384 throwing, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I feel like he can take something from those experiences and bring them into this stage. Can he?
Yes. Here's what he can bring. That dude is cool, as my man would say, cool as the other side of the pillow. Mm-hmm. Right? And that team follows him. Right, and when you have a quarterback that is that calm and that cool and that focused, right? That carries on to the rest of the team. Yeah. He ain't scared of the Cleveland Browns. He ain't scared of the moment. You know, I used to golf with guys, and I remember one time they said, "Ooh, this putt is to win the match." And I'm like, when I was 18 years old, I played football in front of 105,000 people. You 3 guys ain't gonna bother me.
I love that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think it does to that extent. For example, I would have more of a problem if Josh Allen, who came from Wyoming,
right?
And then his first time in the playoffs, he had to play in front of 80,000 people.
Well, to that point,
he ain't never seen that many people.
And to that point, Joe Flacco played at Delaware, and we went through his playoff resume yesterday, and it wasn't until his 6th game where he had any kind of success.
Right. So that plays that plays a part in it. When you playing in front of crickets, and then you get in a stadium with rabid fans, right? Think about this. A lot of these guys that play at these small schools, the away games aren't even packed.
Sure.
So you don't get the full, how you could get going into Pittsburgh or somewhere like that.
Right.
So I do believe that because he played at Ohio State, he played at on some of the biggest stages that college football had to offer. I do think his mental state will be okay, but I think his overall mental state is just great with how he handles himself, with how calm. No chaos could be going on around this man, and he's just like, let's go play some football. Those are the guys that worry me more than anything, because you can't break them. You can't break him. They're not going to break C.J. Stroud.
Leroy, did you see his game-winning drive against Tampa Bay when he had 30-some seconds left or whatever after Baker?
Yes.
I mean, that was the moment for me where I said, okay, it's not a fluke, his success so far. This kid is going to be a superstar. And
the whole time he's like this.
I know. Never broke a sweat.
Like that. Those are the individuals in sports that are the most terrifying.
I wish he was ours. I really do.
He hasn't been hit in the mouth by the Browns defense yet.
Not yet.
Thank you.
Not yet.
Hey,
let's see.
Leroy,
the only other elite defense he played was Baltimore Week 1, and he got smoked in that game.
Well,
now
that
was the
was
first week,
that
but
was
still.
Yeah, that was his welcome to the NFL.
He's also a rookie.
I hear you. He's a rookie.
I'm just saying, all we have right now with C.J. Stroud is what he's done.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is pile up wins against a lot of bad teams, let's be honest.
His short stint as an NFL quarterback, he has shown extreme poise.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He has galvanized his team. He is the leader of that team. As C.J. Stroud goes, so does that team. And that's not a bad spot for a quarterback to be in. So I'm not saying he can't get shook. I'm not saying that the Browns won't get to him. I do believe the Browns will win. But I'm just saying, that guy that shows very little emotion but carries a mean stick, those are the guys that scare me the most.
Yeah. OH. Hey, congratulations, man. And we'll talk next week.
All right, Leroy.
All righty.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, Leroy.
Happy New Year, guys.
Same to you, Leroy.
Before we bring in our next guest, a quick reminder that tonight we have a Behind the Glass. It'll either be 6 or 7, not officially sure. We've been hammering home the time. But tonight, me, Earl, Anthony, potentially a very special guest, so stay tuned for that. That is coming up tonight.
Potentially a very special guest.
Potentially a very, very special guest, yes. I don't want
Wow.
to say it because every time we say a guest is coming, it jinxes it doesn't work
Yeah,
out. So
I know what
potentially
you
a
mean.
very special guest. But this next guest is very special in his own right, and he's definitely here. Let's welcome Chris Rose to the show. What's up, Chris?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Welcome to the playoffs, buddy.
Yeah, it's nice to be back, isn't it? Like,
My goodness.
Both of
I
my,
love
both of my
that you're
sons are
representing,
home right
too.
now. Oh, yeah. Well,
got-
both my sons are home right now. I've got one that lives in San Diego and one that's a senior in high school here, and I just woke up the senior. Late start day out here in California.
Yeah.
And I said, so you nervous? He's like, yeah, I'm really nervous. I was like, oh, this is perfect. This got me back to the mid-'80s in my high school years. So we can't wait to get going. Is it Saturday?
Saturday.
I know. I wish
That's
it was
a great
Saturday
feeling.
already.
You know, I mean, that's a great feeling. You want that feeling. You want to feel nervous. Playoff games are never easy, no matter how good. Even if your team's the favorite, there's no such thing as easy playoff games. So that nervous feeling means that you're living life. You're living an exciting lane here. That's a great feeling to have. No.
It is. And so at this time of year, I have the good fortune of working at NFL Network both Saturday and Sunday during the wild card and then the divisional rounds when there's games those days. Usually I would be in nice and early on Saturday to watch, the first kick. But I have decided to stay here and watch the game with my sons because I just realized I never watched a Browns playoff victory with my parents together.
Oh, my
So,
gosh.
yeah, I obviously the Raiders game was the first one.
Right.
I was grounded for that. I was supposed to go to the game, but I was grounded.
Oh.
Bad kid in first grade. Yeah.
Red, right,
So I
88.
watched it with my mom. My dad was at the game with my brother. And then, obviously, the strike-shortened season. That game was out in L.A. We lost 27-10. Then we beat the Jets. We lost to the Dolphins. That year we were up 21-3. That was on the road. The next year we beat the Jets. I was at that game, but my parents weren't.
What a game!
It never happened. So I want to be able to.
Can I ask what were you grounded for, Chris? Do you even remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's got to be a great story.
I mean, I was 9. It couldn't have been that great. So do you guys remember those little Playmobil toys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only one that remembers them.
They still have them. Look them up. Google them. They still have them out there. They're not that cool. The toys aren't that cool. But I spray painted them black on our garage stairs.
Oh, no.
And then I flushed them down the toilet. I don't know. I must have been some sort of sick, sadistic kid. And so my parents were like, yeah, you're not going to the game. I was like, wait a second. This is the first time they've ever been in the playoffs. They're like, yeah, you moron. Learn.
That sounds like somebody that was cruel to animals. You just spray painted a man, flushed him down the toilet, just do that.
Well, he had to get rid of the evidence. He didn't want the evidence to stick around.
Yeah. You guys should have talked to my shrink, Mrs. Goldhammer, back in the day. Then you really could have done a deep dive on what was wrong with Rose as a kid.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, Chris, we were talking about it amongst ourselves. Is it crazy to think that this might be the Browns' best opportunity to win a Super Bowl? Like, you know, looking forward, or like just the way the circumstances have laid, they're in the playoffs. It seems like teams aren't playing up, like Patrick Mahomes isn't playing up to snuff. Is this an opportunity for the Browns to win a championship when you didn't even think that they would even be in the playoffs given this year?
Yeah, I mean, I remember waking up 2 days after the Baltimore game where we came from behind to win, and I was crushed, right? Had a bunch of texts on the season being over once Watson broke his shoulder. And I was like, my God, this team really had a legit shot. And feel like it was just going down the drain. And then to see what happened these final 5 weeks of the year was nothing short of amazing. And, you know, the Browns have become kind of a darling in the NFL. You know, there's a lot of people who feel like they have the best chance of upending Baltimore. I do think there's a pretty sizable gap between Baltimore and the rest of the AFC. It doesn't mean that the Browns or somebody else can't get them in 60 minutes of football. It just feels like Baltimore's playing at a really high level right now. But other than that, there's no team that is definitively better than the Cleveland Browns right now. I know that Buffalo went on a 5-game winning streak to finish the season, but like Kansas City and Miami can't get out of their own way. So one of those teams will go away and the other one will be okay in the divisional round. So, yeah, I mean, do we have a shot at the Super Bowl? We do. We do.
Chris, you work at the NFL. I'm sorry, Bull. You work at the NFL Network, so you know all the narrative. You know, the conspiracy theory over the last couple of years is, well, the league just writes the storylines. They do that in like August, and then they play out. So let's just play that game for a second. Would there be a better narrative than Joe Flacco in Baltimore against the Ravens in a playoff game? I mean, that's like storybook stuff.
Yeah, it'd be great. It would be fantastic. And, you know, there's a lot of people in Baltimore, from what I can tell, that are rooting for Joe Flacco. Like, they are. Now, if they see him in the divisional round or if they see him in the AFC Championship game, that will quickly change. But he was extremely well respected there. You know, did things go great at the end when they drafted his eventual successor? And, you know, maybe he didn't do everything in his power to help Lamar get up to speed. I mean, he's not the only guy if that's the way it went down. And, you know, we weren't there to know, but that's kind of what you heard. But, yeah, it would be fantastic. And it has been an incredible run. I mean, I filled in for Jim his first start out here in Los Angeles. And I don't know if you guys remember the opening drive. They ended up scoring a touchdown. Yeah. And I was like, I cannot believe that just happened. Yeah. I mean, I know the dude has played 15 years of NFL football, but still to literally just kind of get off his couch where he was throwing passes to his brother and his dad, occasionally his kids, to have no OTAs, no preseason football, and to introduce yourself to a bunch of guys, go buy dinner out in Los Angeles, and then start throwing touchdown passes to Jerome Ford. It really is incredible and fun to watch.
Chris, if it is Browns-Ravens next week, I mean, who knows if this will matter or not, but, I mean, don't you think all the pressure is on Baltimore? Lamar Jackson, since taking over for Flacco, they've been a disaster in the playoffs. They have one playoff win in a lot of years where people thought they were going to make big runs the year he won the MVP. Joe Flacco has no pressure on him in my mind. I don't know. Do you think that's the case, and that might affect the Ravens and Lamar?
Why in the world would you ask me about next week's game? You've worked in Cleveland a long enough time. No. You brought it up.
Jay brought it up. I mean, Jay brought it up.
Yeah,
so
somebody else brought it up. I'm not thinking about next week's game. I'm not going to talk about.
Okay, you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, listen, we're all superstitious that way. I mean, let's win this
Talking
week.
about a game doesn't affect its result.
No, but I love the way Kevin Stefanski's worked it is 1-0. 1-0.
That is true. That is true. But I also like this is the team out of the three that we could have played, Jacksonville, Indy, Houston, that has me most nervous because of C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, we said that last week too.
Yeah, he's playing some unbelievable football, and the other two guys, they'll throw it to you. This guy does not. They have the fewest turnovers in the league. The game is not about stats, but I came across one that to me is massively eye-opening with C.J. Stroud. He became the third player ever to lead the league in yards passing per game and touchdown to interception ratio. The other two guys were Joe Montana in the 1989 season, the year he won MVP and they won another Super Bowl, and Tom Brady in the 2007 perfect season until they lost to the Giants.
That's crazy.
That is pretty remarkable stuff.
Wow, that really is eye-opening. You're right.
But let me ask you another question about this game then, Chris.
Yes.
Dustin Hopkins.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, Dustin Hopkins is not, or likely not, going to play. He's been absolutely remarkable for the Browns this year, as good as any kicker in the NFL. This kid, Riley Patterson, overall, with Detroit and the Browns, has been fine, but he hasn't kicked a lot of long field goals, only 4 field goals over 39 yards. How concerned are you in the difference between the two guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning. There's nothing you can do about it. So it is going to affect the way that Kevin calls the game. I have always felt for the last decade that Baltimore, whomever was running their offense, had such an advantage in their ability to call plays at the end of a half or at the end of the game because they knew they had Justin Tucker on their sideline. And so it opened up their playbook significantly more. So we're going to, are we going to try a 47-yarder? If it's 4th and 6 at the 30, are we going to try it? I mean, yes, it's indoors. Yes, he spent the year with the Detroit Lions indoors. He has done a good job, but what are they going to do? And here's the thing: if you take away his spirit early in the game, what if you do need him from 48 yards with the game on the line? Like that is something that we're all going to have to deal with, and it's a tough thing for Kevin Stefanski because he's the only one that can make this call ultimately.
As we sit here today, who are the favorites in the AFC and the NFC? It seems obvious, San Francisco and Baltimore, but it isn't always the ones that meet in the Super Bowl. Do you have anything outside of those two teams that you think you could see making a run?
I mean, with the favorites, if I didn't have my heart in this thing. As I mentioned, I really think that Baltimore is playing at a real high level. And San Francisco, being able to rest most of those guys last week, they didn't rest all of them. In fact, I couldn't figure out why Debo and Ayuk were in the game. It drove me nuts, but whatever. They're really good. And if Dallas has to go out there, they're going to have to deal with their road demons. And that is a real problem for them. Could a team like Detroit give them a problem? I don't know. Philadelphia is a holy mess. Tampa Bay is not going to be good enough. Green Bay is a cute story, but I think it stops this weekend. And then the Rams are the one team I think that could, because of the way that McVay knows Shanahan, they're the one team that might give San Francisco a little bit of an issue.
Chris, last question. We thank you for jumping on with us. When you watch this game, if you say the Browns are going to win the game, will it be because of Joe Flacco and what he did with the offense, or will it be because of the defense and what the defense is going to do to C.J. Stroud?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think something that has not been talked about at all is that our running game has got to kill it this week. And I'm not talking about running for 220 yards like the Colts did last week. But sometimes we get a little pass happy. I know that we've run the ball. We're top 5, I believe, in rushing attempts. But it still feels like sometimes when there's plays to be made on the ground, we decide to go elsewhere. And I know that Joe has thrown the ball beautifully against Houston. He just ate him up. It's going to be a little different. They're definitely going to have Will Anderson back. They might have Greenard back, who's a really, really good edge guy. But I think we could be able to run the ball. And it would not bother me if we just ran it right up their gut. And that is a great way to take the spirit out of a team.
Well, Ford's coming off his best game probably against the Jets. I know he didn't play much against the Bengals, so hopefully they can do it and be balanced. Thanks, Chris.
Chris, appreciate you.
Enjoy the game, Chris.
You got it, guys. I'm ready to kick. I don't know if we're kicking this afternoon. Probably not.
I wish we
it's
were.
9:14 where I am.
Yeah, I wish we were. And most importantly, enjoy watching it with your boys.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's the biggest. That's why we watch. That's why we love sports. Our parents introduced it to us, and that relationship is one that you have to experience it to understand it. Chris, thanks.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, and if for whatever reason we don't win, the kids are not allowed back in the house. So there you go.
I like that rule. That rule.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, you go on. You know, everybody's got little superstitions that if you're sitting in one chair and the team is doing well, you can't move, you can't get up. If your kids are in the house and they lose a playoff game, I guess they can't come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it is what it is.
That's fair.
Chris, always good to talk to Chris Rose. Did a great job filling in for Jimmy Donovan and will continue to do great work. And he mentioned the Browns running game, which brings us right to our next topic, ironically. That was not even planned out ahead of time, but it's good producing when it works. And first, a quick word from FanDuel. The NFL season may be wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find more bets in the Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best and most popular way to find parlays, and so much more. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. I sent you guys some numbers last night about the Texans running game, the Browns rushing defense, the Browns running game, and I was trying to see if there was any trend in what differentiated the Browns, especially defensively, in their wins versus their losses. The big thing is they don't do a great job against the run in their losses. In their 6 losses, they're averaging 127 rush yards allowed per game in their 11 wins. That number drops to 93. The Texans' running game has been better of late since Devin Singletary took over, but the Browns are also coming off their most successful rushing attack against the Jets. I don't count the Bengals game. Go back to the Jets. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, both looked effective. So I guess the question for you guys is, which offense, Houston or Cleveland, needs a more balanced attack to have sustained success in this wild card round?
I think it's definitely Houston because the Browns' defense is a lot better. I mean, yes, I would argue that Houston's passing game is probably a little better than Cleveland's, but the Browns' defense is top-notch across the board, running game and passing game. I know there was a little lull there in the middle of the season where they weren't stopping the run as well. I just think that was injuries piled up a little bit at that point. Myles Garrett was at his lowest point in terms of health-wise, and they were a little banged up, and they went through a stretch. But for the most part, their defense has played very well, both the run and the pass. So if the Texans become predictable, they're in a bad way. We've seen the Texans' defense isn't very good. It's okay. It's not. And plus, by the way, we talked about all the Browns injuries. Now, I know a lot of these guys are going to play, but keep this in mind. The entire Texans starting defensive line did not practice yesterday. All 4 starters did not practice. Now, I think all 4 are going to play, but all 4 are banged up, obviously. So that's a factor that none of them, and plus, in fact, their third defensive end, Jerry Hughes, the veteran who used to be on Buffalo, he didn't practice either. So their top 5 defensive linemen didn't practice.
I think that a lot of teams, though, Bull, are looking at the Saturday games in particular. Tuesday is the normal off day, and because the schedule is moved up,
Right.
But I think a lot of coaches still honored that and said, look, everybody could use a rest.
Maybe so.
If you're nursing a ding, you're gonna take a seat on Tuesday and go through your regular work week.
The point is they're dinged up on that line. I'm not saying they're not going to play.
No,
they're probably going to play.
But, like you said earlier, it's January. We're all hurt.
Yeah.
Everybody's carrying something.
But any little bit of an edge you can get. I just think in the end, the Texans defense is not that good. And the Browns have not really been that balanced. Now, I thought they were balanced against the Jets.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they haven't been a very balanced offense under Joe Flacco, and yet it has worked. I think against Houston, because their defense is not very good, they don't have to be balanced. We'd like them to be, but I think they have a better chance of winning not being balanced than the Texans do. If the Texans can't run, they got no shot of beating the Browns. If the Browns can't run, they could still beat the Texans, my opinion.
I actually agree with that. I think one thing I think that we're discounting a little bit is because we're in the playoffs now. We're in the playoffs now, and you're looking at a situation where you're in the playoffs and you kind of, you start over. So starting over in our minds means we kind of forget just how good the Browns defense is, and we forget how good they are when they are full strength. And so when you talk about the running game, it is imperative for Houston to be able to run the ball with Singletary or Pierce or whoever they're bringing in the game. Because the thing that the Browns do better than anybody else is 3 and outs. And the thing that they want to do in this game to C.J. Stroud is he's a rhythm-type quarterback. So he wants to string together some plays. He wants to be able to take his deep shots. He wants to be able to stay on schedule. Good luck doing that against the Cleveland Browns on 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11. Any holding penalties, false starts, any of those things are going to put you behind the sticks. I think they have to run the ball. They have to stay and be consistent with running the ball and keeping a threat. That's why if you ask me what is what is the prescription for the Browns winning this football game, it's getting out, scoring points early in the game, getting out to maybe a 17-3, 14-3 type game, and then let that defense know, hey, look, you got to move the distance of the field. You're going to have to overcome this pass rush. And I know C.J. Stroud is cool, calm, and collected, but you're just going to be cool, calm, and collected getting off the turf. There's a difference between being comfortable and being effective. And I don't care who you are. You could be Joe Montana. If you getting hit and you don't know where the blitz is coming from and you can consistently get pressure, any quarterback is susceptible to turnovers or poor play. We ain't got to have them throw picks. We just need some incomplete passes.
I agree with you guys, but I think my philosophy in football is pretty simple. The more balanced you are, the better chance you have of winning, regardless of what defense you're going against, what your offense looks like, and what it's built like. Balance is the key. You have to be able to do both. So I think it's important to both teams that they do have a running game. However, I think it is more important to the Texans for these reasons. The Browns have shown that if there's an area you're going to beat them, it is on the ground. Mm-hmm. So I think if I'm Houston, I really want to establish, the pass game's going to be there. And that will be there late if they need it. C.J. Stroud has proven that time and again. I think what they're going to try to do early on is run. Establish the run game and prove to yourself and to Cleveland that you can move the ball against them. If they're able to establish a good ground game, I think it could potentially be a long day for the Browns. I really do. If they are only pass forward, I think the Browns win the football game. So, but I also think I can make a case that I think it's very important that the Browns establish a run game too. You made a great point. The Browns have been able to win with Flacco, where ignoring the run. That is not something that they can do and continue that, particularly in the playoffs.
I think that will be harder to do when they play better defensive teams.
No question.
But I think against the Texans, you could still get away with it if you had to.
Yes, but one of the things that, against the Jets, for instance, I don't think they were ever afraid of the Jets. The Jets had a better defense than offense, clearly. But when you're in the playoffs and with each round you advance, obviously the quality of opponent is better. You're getting better each week. The Texans are an above-average team all the way around, or they wouldn't be in the playoffs. So because of that, I do think they're still going to have to – you can't just go out there and let Flacco fling it 45 times. I think Leroy Hoard's point is the point that we should focus on this week and moving forward. He made a great point. We've all said it at various times of the season. I've believed all year that their fatal flaw has been the turnovers. If you look
but
at
it should
the numbers,
bite them at some point. It should. It hasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But as I'm looking forward and figuring what is the headline of our season-ending loss, it won't surprise me at all if it's the Browns give the ball away too many times.
Sure.
If, to Leroy's point, the Browns take care of the football over their next 4 games, if they're able to do that, the Browns can win a Super Bowl.
Absolutely, yeah.
Their fatal flaw will be interceptions or fumbles. And with Flacco, we know the interception gene is there. We've seen it. We just hope that we can suppress it enough that it doesn't become our kill pill.
Sure.
I think the way I look at it, I don't think the Browns are talented enough on the outside or up front or at running back to play a conservative style game. I think that the reason the Browns are here today is because of the touchdowns and because of the interceptions. I've come to the conclusion that that's part of the game. That is part of how the Browns can win. And if you don't, if you say, Joe, just maintenance the game,
Right.
you ain't got enough on the outside to make no plays to win these games.
You can't ask him to rein it in. You have to take the risk of the interceptions to get the best out of Flacco right now.
You got to.
And you got to hope that even if he's risky, that the turnovers don't happen.
And with him so far, with the Browns, the reward has outweighed the risk.
Right.
Yes.
So you keep doing it.
But the better the
hope
opponent,
that it doesn't rear its ugly head.
The better the opponent, the less likely you are to get away.
You're right.
Survive that risk.
Right.
You almost have to hope that, but you can't. The answer is not to ask him to be more careful, because that's just not how he's playing right.
No.
I don't think you can get. You need to risk the risk to get the reward.
You're absolutely right.
Team.
No risk it, no biscuit.
And that's the crazy thing about it. It does make you feel like it's like a guilty pleasure. Like, you're like, yeah, throw the ball 100 times. If we throw 3 picks, it doesn't matter. We got to get 4 touchdowns and win.
As long as you have more touchdowns than picks.
And if you're going to throw the picks, throw them by the other team's end zone, not your own end zone.
My God.
And if you do throw the picks, at least we know he forgets it. He's
gone.
He's a dog. Like somebody told me, like, if you have a dog and you punish your dog, the dog forgets in 5 minutes.
Yeah, they don't know.
They're like, dude, why you tripping?
And you can't punish a dog for something it did 2 hours ago.
No.
He doesn't have that kind of memory.
What are you talking about?
What I do.
I was just hanging out with you.
By the way, speaking of dogs, it reminded me of something that we did at my house recently, which is the most like American privileged white guy thing. One of those American privileged white guy things.
Does your dog have health insurance?
No, my wife has talked to me about that.
That's next level.
No, but we did do a DNA test on him to find out his makeup.
Oh, was it a rescue? So you didn't know what kind of dog
rescue.
it was?
Yeah.
Did it come back yet?
It did. He is a mix of 15 different types
wow,
of dogs.
Heinz 57.
Yes, and the most is which we thought was Australian cattle dog.
Yeah, that's
he's 30%.
Wow.
But we found the
So
second.
he's truly from the streets.
That's
right.
right. That's definitely a white person thing.
See? And the second most, though, was a shocker. It was a Chihuahua. It's 11% Chihuahua.
Me and my brother still waiting on them DNA tests. Ain't no way I'm this big, Mom and Dad. You need to figure something out.
What happened?
What happened?
It is so funny. Jay, you haven't met G's brothers, have you?
I have not, no.
So his brothers are both huge also.
Yeah.
Huge. And his your mom's tall for a woman.
Yeah, slightly,
right?
yeah.
But his dad is tiny.
Yeah, I met your mom and dad. It wasn't what I was expecting.
Not at all.
I thought your dad was going to be this hulking, imposing dude.
He's a really
And
quiet
his brothers
guy
are
who reads his
just as
Bible.
big, if not bigger. One of your brothers is bigger
Does
than
he
you.
have size in his family, though, from brothers,
No,
uncles?
my uncles are pretty.
They're tall.
but they're thin as rails.
They're all rails.
Wow.
thin as rails. Like eat anything they want. Small. Now I'm trying
Well, you got a cousin who's a big dude also,
my cousin who's an actor
who I've been texting with because of his show.
He's a pretty. He's
Nice.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like he used to play left tackle at Eastern Michigan. So he's probably about what you saw him about 6'3".
he's a big dude, yeah.
Wow.
6'3".
He's giant.
He's a big dude. But other than that,
Do we need to go on the Maury Povich show?
because it's just the anomalies. Like I
Is
got
Maury Povich still around?
I don't
he
think.
is.
I don't think. Is he?
I think he is.
By the way,
Daytime TV
I
star.
have been to
Channel 72 somewhere. Probably.
When I was in college, I went to tapings of Sally Jesse Raphael.
Did you really?
And Ricky Lake.
I remember both.
Listen,
Sally Jesse had the red glasses.
I just knew Ricky Lake. I say she like black dudes. Ricky Lake.
Did she?
No, I don't know. I made it up in my mind.
Oh,
but
I think she's gay, actually.
Really?
I think
you're right. I think she is. Yeah.
I do want to bring back this to the running game real quick. I don't think it's necessary for this week in particular. I think even without a running game, the Browns should be able to move the ball against the Texans. Amari Cooper probably won't go for 265 again, but they have no answer for him and Njoku, all those guys. However, as you get playing against the better teams in the playoffs with better defenses, Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, etc., adding some semblance of a competent running game to enhance the play action with Joe Flacco
would be crazy.
Is going to make that facet of the Stefanski playbook in the offense 10 times better.
100%.
It's not just the slight flinch at the threat of a run, but it's a legit, I have to commit because they're running the ball effectively, which we actually haven't seen yet. The Jets game was the only sliver of an effective run game with Joe Flacco, and he threw for 300 yards in the first half against the number 2 pass defense in the entire NFL.
I have dreams that Nick Chubb is healthy. Can you imagine how effective the play fake would be if they were faking it to 24 instead of 30 or whomever?
That's crazy.
Like, it's just, oh my God.
You know what's so bizarre? That you just saying that, I swear I'm not making this up. It's going to sound like I'm making this up. I usually don't remember my dreams. But I had a dream about Nick Chubb last night, and I forgot about it until you said it.
Really?
He invited me over to his house, and we were discussing how we were going to get him ready to play for the playoffs. I totally forgot about it until you said I have dreams of Nick Chubb.
That's crazy.
And it reminded me of it. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. I just forgot about it.
Did you get him back on the field?
I woke up, but we were working. He and I were coming up with a plan.
Now that is a great dream.
To get him on the field for the playoffs.
I have the same thought of you
have. Comes to me.
Go to visit.
He
comes to the Bulls' house. Knock, knock,
No,
knock,
I
knock.
went to his house. He invited me over.
Did you have physical therapy or something?
I have nothing. I have no medical training whatsoever. I'm completely unqualified.
And he just said, Bull,
he needs me.
I've been thinking about who I need to reach out to get me healthy.
Yeah.
And your name came up. How do I get on the damn field Saturday?
That's it. He said, I need you. I said, I'm there, Nick. I'm coming, buddy.
He told him, do you need to release some stress, Nick? No, come on, man.
Now stop it. Stop it.
Whoa.
By the way, apparently,
I was thinking this in the chat. I was thinking the same thing, man. He was like,
inappropriate.
I inappropriate.
Nick Chubb is not inappropriate.
You almost died as Leroy said eating pie, okay? Let's bring back the level of appropriateness.
That's true. By the way, I actually know, this will sound palsy too. I'm not going to say where, but I actually know where Nick lives because I'm not going to say how because a friend of a friend. But apparently he's the best neighbor.
Yes, I do too know someone
friendly to all his fellow building people.
Yep, and you'd never know that he was a professional football player.
There's no parties. There's no nothing.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's the same person that we know that's a neighbor.
Probably not, no.
But I've heard stories about just the most pleasant.
He's the best.
Kind.
Yeah.
You know, I've said before, if you could have 53 Nick Chubbs.
You win the Super Bowl every year.
Every year. With work ethic and mindset and approach and just doing his job and staying out of everybody's business.
Here's the crazy. You talk about the Kool-Aid Mafia and how we have a cult. Listen, if you want to get canceled in Cleveland, the easiest way.
Say something bad about 24.
Say anything about Nick Chubb, they will get you up out of here. Yeah. They will spam your emails, Twitters. They will get you out of here. You cannot say nothing about Nicholas Chubb.
I would take, and this is, I'm not taking a shot at Watson. If I could have Nick Chubb back, if you told me you could have any 4 players that are injured or Nick Chubb, I'd take Nick Chubb.
I would too.
And I wouldn't even think about it for 2 seconds. And that might be crazy because Watson's upside is really high. But I don't care if I could put Nick Chubb on this team right now. Forget about it.
God,
forget about it.
It's such a shame that he has to watch this in street clothes.
That being said, I was really, and I've probably been harder on Jerome Ford on this show than anybody. And I really liked the way he played against the Jets. I thought it was his best performance.
Yeah.
I thought he really showed some growth in his game.
Twinkle
and
toes.
the offensive line is improving. Joe Bitonio told Jason the other day it's the best he's felt all year.
Which is stunning, isn't it? Just a couple weeks ago, he could barely move.
Exactly. So the fact that they're in really good shape in that middle, the tackles have been serviceable enough. And
I'm with
let's
Chris
go.
Rose. I wish we could kick it right now.
Oh,
I am
God, yeah.
so anxious and excited to see
I can't
how
believe
this
it's only
goes.
Wednesday.
Now, by the way,
on Monday, like this feels like Thursday.
Jay
Yesterday
has
felt
not
like Friday.
stopped fidgeting.
No, the
He
worst-
has not
Yeah.
stopped moving.
Yeah, listen, the worst is Saturday when you get up because you want it to happen.
I know.
And then that day is going to drag. Thankfully,
it's a
they're not
4:30
playing.
kick,
Yeah,
right?
thankfully they're not playing at 8 o'clock.
Thank God.
Because that day is going to drag till 4 o'clock.
I'm on a radio day, and it's the best day
Yeah,
I've
that's
ever.
true.
I was like, thank goodness I'm on 8 to 12.
Yeah.
Because I
I
couldn't.
think you're sitting at home biting your nails.
And you're the only game in town. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
They might need to take my phone away from me. 'Cause I'm going to be on Twitter going crazy. I'm going to let y'all know right now, don't follow me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going nuts. Either way, Duke and knee-jerk, full extended.
Mike, speaking of Batonio, do you have that clip? You want to play that
We're
now?
going to do one thing, then we'll get to the
okay.
player reaction at the end. But before we get to our last topic, one more word from FanDuel. Because the NFL season may be wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose for brand new customers. The app is simple, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best and most popular way to find parlays, and so much more. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. But we'll get to the sound from Antonio later. I promise we'll get to that.
Okay.
And it's very funny, so it's worth sticking around.
Yeah.
But we've seen on the internet a lot, and we're going to do this on Wednesday, so we don't have to talk about it in the rest of the week. We're going to spend 10 minutes on it. But the whole Deshaun Watson to Houston ties have been a major storyline online. He's not playing in the game, obviously. He's still on IR recovering from his shoulder surgery. So I guess the question I want to ask you guys is, how big of a storyline should the Deshaun Watson trade, his connection and ties to Houston, the fact that he's not playing in this game, C.J. Stroud is coming to Houston and taking them to the playoffs, how much of a storyline should that be over the next 3-4 days as we get ready to take on Houston in the AFC wildcard round?
I think none at all.
Zip zero.
Yeah, I mean.
we all in a, we in a, I didn't flip the switch to a point where I don't, no disrespect to Deshaun Watson, I don't even be thinking about it like that. It's
Right.
it's like saying, do you think of your ex-wife on your anniversary with your new wife? No, like it's like out of sight, out of mind. Like, not to say
And
he's
it's
our ex, but this is what we've been waiting for. It's playoffs.
Yeah.
All that rest of that stuff. I
And
don't
if
care.
any team has come to embrace the next man up mentality, it's this team. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter who goes down. You just you at some point realize that to an extent they're replaceable.
Yeah, I even from a national media perspective, I don't think it's much of a story this week. It's really just hey, they had Deshaun Watson, they traded, but now it's Joe Flacco. It's like
Right,
the beginning
that's it.
of the story,
Yeah.
and then a quick turn the page. Maybe in Houston it's a big story, but
You
I
guys
doubt
expect
it.
him to be at the game?
He better be in
been
the
there.
game.
See, I just the only reason I bring that up is because I think he subjects himself to whether he's on the sidelines or he's up in the booth.
Yeah.
He's going to see a lot of Texans fans, and
Yeah.
they're not going to have nice things to say to him.
Although
I don't know.
last-
I just don't know.
Although last year it wasn't that bad. Like we thought
Yeah,
he was
he's-
going to have stuff thrown on the field.
Well,
the dude
remember,
was taking pictures.
Wasn't there like 20,000 fans there or something? No one showed up.
Yeah, there was kind of minimalski there.
I think your teammate. You should be on the field for the
He-
playoffs.
no, he's
I
gonna-
think he
he's
should
gonna be on the
and he's
sideline.
been there. He's been there.
I hope he's on the sidelines.
He's
I
on
think he should
sideline.
be.
He's been there the last few games, and I think he'll be there. But in the end, I don't care about it. I
Yeah,
know
I don't
you
either.
guys don't care about it.
No.
I don't know if they care about the storyline in Texas. Listen, I don't know why they would.
No,
as
they've
pissed
moved
as
on
they
and they're in
were.
a better place.
You know what? In the end, he did them a favor forcing his way out.
Hell yeah, he did. They got 3 first-round picks for him, and they solved their quarterback.
and
position.
they got a good story, and I don't even think the national media
I
should
don't
be a
think any-
thing because look, you got a good matchup. The storyline is built.
Well, you know what? You know how the national media is. If he's in eyesight,
they catch him.
what's the over/under on shots that they take of
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson during the game?
And by the way, in the industry, who chooses that? Who says
Individual producers, game producers.
Game producers say,
Like
give me,
you
give
remember
me that
the
Deshaun
Bubby
Watson
Brister's
shot.
mom storyline where when Bubby Brister was playing for the Steelers, for some reason, the producers of those games really loved Bubby Brister's parents.
Was she hot?
No.
Oh.
I mean, it's not like, I thought for sure once they showed Jake Browning's girlfriend once,
Yeah.
I thought they were going to show her 18,000
Well, they showed her a few times.
They showed her a handful.
Yeah.
Once they showed her once, and I'm sure social media went nuts.
Yeah.
I thought, here's our next, just like I'm so done with the cutaway shots, and I hope my daughter's not watching. I'm sure she's not. But when they take this cutaway shots in Kansas City of Taylor Swift.
My daughter's a Swiftie.
It's so, huge Swift.
By the way, I don't know if you heard about this. One of the award shows was just on the Golden Globes.
I saw that clip.
And there's a comedian named Joe Coy, who, for those who don't know, he's a funny guy.
I like him, but it did not go over well.
It wasn't even that bad.
No, but you saw the reaction to
I know.
it. I think everybody in the building, the joke was, what's the difference between an NFL game and the Golden Globes? Well, the Golden Globes won't have as many cutaways as Taylor Swift, and they immediately cut to Taylor Swift.
Right,
she looked like if daggers came from eyeballs, he would be dead.
Why wouldn't she just laugh in that case?
Everybody in the room was afraid to laugh because
I know.
It was like complete silence.
Hey, Taylor Swift got so much power.
Yeah.
She can have the draft reenacted. He just got naturally drafted. he's in the middle. He's in the Middle East now.
It wasn't really. It wasn't really even an insult of her.
No,
it was more poking fun of the NFL.
She was part of the punchline.
But
you're right. But she's so sensitive to criticism.
That's funny.
We've seen that before. I thought it was funny, but no one else did.
After the Kanye West move, you can't say nothing.
No,
you better leave.
She's untouchable, man.
You better leave her alone. Shout out to Taylor Swift. Hey,
He's got the biggest fan base out there.
Man,
so what's the over-under? If Deshaun is on the sideline, who gets shown more in random cutaways? Taylor Swift in the Chiefs game on Peacock?
Oh, come
or
on.
Deshaun?
Nobody's going to surpass Taylor Swift. Although it depends on how the Chiefs are doing. They only show her after a big Travis Kelce play or,
or lack thereof.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if he maybe, drops a big key pass, they might show her reaction. I think they have a camera fixed on her in the booth at all time, routed into replay, because there was a random moment in a game a few games ago, which wasn't like you wouldn't say, hey, ISO on Taylor because they're at the goal line. It was a middle of the field play. He had a nice catch and got a handful of yards, and they immediately cut to her reaction, celebrating. I'm like, why would you be fixed on her unless you're not fixed on her for the whole game? Which is what a waste of a camera.
By the way, that game is supposed to be one of the coldest games in the history of football.
8 below, I think I read.
That is not good for the Dolphins.
That's the air temperature. With wind, they say the wind chill could be in the minus.
I remember the Bengals-Chargers playoff game, AFC Championship game.
Ridiculous.
Let me give you guys this: because I'll be rooting for these upsets. I secretly want a Browns home playoff game. Is there any chance of an upset with these two teams, Pittsburgh and with the Dolphins?
1,000%.
Is there a chance?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Is it likely?
I wouldn't pick either of them.
No.
But is there a chance? I have stopped saying there's no chance. Because I said there's no chance the Browns would beat the Niners.
Yeah.
And I was wrong.
Yeah, I mean.
And so, you know what? From now on, there's a very, very small chance anything can happen.
I'd be surprised.
Which is more likely, the Steelers or the Dolphins?
It's funny.
Because I asked my dad that question.
I'd say the Dolphins.
See, I would say the Dolphins because they're way better than the Steelers, but they're not used to playing in that kind of weather.
No,
and they
they're
just
not.
feel like they're limping into it.
But you know what? No one's used to playing in that kind of weather. No one.
Maybe.
I always laugh when the national media will say stuff like,
That's true.
hey, Miami's got to come up to Cleveland in January.
Yeah.
How many games do you play where it's
that's
minus
true.
8?
Fair.
How many of you are working outside in the greater Cleveland area?
Right. None of us.
You're not used to that.
It's got to be the Dolphins because, the Dolphins are way better than the Steelers. And right now, the Bills are a lot better than the Chiefs, I think.
I agree on both counts.
Yeah.
I think the Dolphins are better than the Steelers, and the Chiefs, I've said it all year, they don't scare me this year. They don't. Now, they can flip the switch.
Their defense has been good.
It's been better, but their offense is just pedestrian.
So, but if the Dolphins do win, we still got to go Baltimore, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Wait, what
If the
did you
Dolphins
say?
win, no.
No.
If
If
the
the Dolphins beat the Chiefs and the Bills beat the Steelers, then the Browns would play the Bills in Buffalo instead of Baltimore.
We would need the Steelers.
And Miami would go to Baltimore.
Yes.
The only way they get a home game is if both of those teams
They
win.
both need to drop.
So if
If either one
win, they go to Baltimore.
They go to
they go to Buffalo. Either Buffalo or Kansas City, depending on which team would win.
Right.
If there's one upset, the Browns go to Buffalo or Kansas City.
Right.
If there's two upsets, the Browns host
the game.
The Steelers.
I need one of them because here's my thing: if the Browns catch the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, that's tricky for them. It's one game, winner take off with Joe Flacco. Oh, heck no. Listen,
you asked, I know he didn't want to answer.
Are you saying you don't want to play the Ravens?
No, he's saying it's tricky for Baltimore. You asked Chris the question, and quite frankly, I thought it was a perfectly fair question.
Yeah.
And you're 1,000%
I think there's total pressure on
the
Lamar.
last thing, if you were to sit down and say, what are your the scenarios that you most want and most are hoping don't happen, for the Ravens, the nightmare is the Browns in Baltimore in the AFC title
And that's the
game.
most likely thing to happen for them.
If one of these upsets, there's going to be a big upset because they've beaten them there already, and, Chris talked about it, and we haven't, but it was a thing that, and it's not, it certainly wasn't a Joe Flacco thing. This happens often in the NFL. When they drafted his replacement, Joe wasn't exactly the, come on, kid, let me take you under my wing.
And
now,
he wasn't that washed up. It wasn't like he was super washed.
Wasn't far away from his Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. It was because the reason he didn't take him under his wing is because Joe ran one offense, and Lamar was clearly a different kind of quarterback. What can he learn from Joe Flacco? I mean, there are things he can learn about reading defenses and whatnot, but their games were so dissimilar. But that was the narrative at the time, was that Joe was not big brother to Lamar. Let me show you how it's done.
Right, sure.
Just like Aaron Rodgers
Brett
wasn't
Favre.
that guy to love, and Favre wasn't that guy to Rodgers. There's a million examples.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger wasn't nuts when they drafted.
Donovan McNabb was not very.
And it's human nature. It's human nature. If I told one of you guys, or I was told tomorrow, hey, we're going to bring a new kid in, and we want you to sort of mentor him. We think he's got great potential. We've put a lot of resources into him. We'd be like, oh, okay, that's cool. I guess I'm training my replacement. In TV, that's a real thing. I'm training my replacement because it happens a lot. But even though Joe Flacco wasn't great about all of that, can you think of a better scenario when Joe is sitting at home in late October, late into November? If someone would have said, well, looks like you're done, you're out of the league, write your fantasy comeback finish. Well, I come back for a team and knock Lamar Jackson and the Ravens out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So your question was perfectly fair. That's the last thing the Ravens want to see.
I'm not trying to see the Browns. I'm just not.
I know if you guys feel like it's a jinx to talk about this, it's fine. You don't have to. But I'll say
I don't really.
I'll say this. If you think about looking forward, next week they could play 4 teams possibly. They could play the Steelers at home, the Ravens on the road, the Chiefs on the road, and the Bills on the road.
Right.
My order of who I'd like to play, obviously the first choice is Steelers at home. There's no debate
That'd be
there.
crazy.
Yeah.
My second choice, I think, is a tough one between the Ravens and the Chiefs, but ultimately I would take the Ravens on the road.
Over the Dolphins?
No, they can't play the Dolphins. There's no scenario they can play the Dolphins.
So
I'd rather the Browns play the Ravens than the Chiefs, even though the Ravens have been the better team, because I think for the Browns, in the end, I'm more worried in the playoffs about Mahomes than I am Lamar.
Right.
When it matters. The last team I'd want.
I would agree
the
with
Bills
that.
would be last. The Bills would be the last team I'd want to play.
I think that's fair. Because
That's just how I feel right now.
That's
Because they're like the Browns, they're peaking right now too.
Well, to that point, and I asked Chris this question, and I was hoping he would give me a more definitive answer. I said, obviously, everyone's choices are the 1 seeds. It always is that way. Everybody says nobody's playing better than the Niners and the Ravens. Truth be told, it doesn't always happen where the 1s meet in the playoffs. In fact, more often than not, it's not 2 1s that meet in the Super Bowl. So what I would say is the team that I would pick as the biggest disruptor would be the Buffalo Bills. Yes. I think the Buffalo Bills have championship pedigree. I think, like we're salivating here that a lot of the good teams are gone, I think no one is salivating more than the Bills because Patrick Mahomes is gone,
right?
And Joe Burrow is gone.
And if they play Mahomes, well, Mahomes is not gone, but
no, I know. But
but for the first time ever, they get Mahomes at home. They'd be playing in Buffalo.
Wouldn't have to go to
By the way,
Kansas
Josh
City.
Allen, even though he's 2-3 in the playoffs, which is not, or 3-4 in the playoffs, which is not great.
Right.
If you look at his touchdown to turnovers, and I'll include a couple of rushing touchdowns, and he actually has a receiving touchdown in the playoffs. He has 20 touchdowns, 5 turnovers in the playoffs.
Wow. I guess the goal would be to have them have a snow event where, but they still throw the ball well. Like he throws the ball.
But of the likely matchups, I think the Browns match up better with the Ravens than they do with the Bills and Chiefs. Listen, I think the Browns can beat any of these teams if they play their best football.
Yeah.
But I think, looking ahead for just a minute, I think the Ravens, Lamar's got all the pressure. And think about it. Next week, they will essentially have sat 2 weeks in a row.
I know.
Lamar didn't play last week.
No.
They will have sat for 2 weeks in a row. He's thinking about how they've been a disaster with him in the playoffs. There's no way that's not on his mind.
Yeah.
No way.
If you guys had to pick one team not named Niners or Ravens, who is your biggest threat to win the Super Bowl?
Bills.
You too?
Yeah.
That's why I wanted them out. I wanted them not making the playoffs altogether.
They're pretty good.
Clear the decks because they scare the hell out of me.
This is messed up a little bit. I think the Rams are a dark horse, man.
I like the Rams in the NFC as my team.
Rams are dark horse,
because
I just don't think their defense is very
good.
good.
They can
I'm
run the
worried
ball.
about that too. But here's what I always come back to with them: McVay can scheme for any opponent,
And they have championship medal.
they do.
And they got running game, they got passing game, they got the quarterback, they got Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald is still there.
going to play. So I like them as a dark horse.
Hey, Bull, by the way, you had Miami and Pittsburgh mixed up. The Browns can't play Pittsburgh next round. They can only play Miami.
You're right. I screwed that up. That's a bad job out of me.
I thought there was a chance where they could
I
play
forgot.
Miami.
I keep forgetting because in my mind I was thinking, I screwed that up because the Steelers are the 7. The Browns can't play the 7. You're right.
Shout out to Evan 419 for
Thank you, Evan 419. I screwed that up. So, but the Dolphins would still be, whether it's the Steelers or the Dolphins.
Dolphins or Steelers,
it's still your first choice because they're the 2 worst teams, and it would be at home. They play the Dolphins at home.
So 2 things before we get to
Dolphins
some super chats,
scares me,
guys. 2 more things real quick. One, there's been some players and coaches who's speaking right now, and I want to play a soundbite for you guys. I want to mention a couple of their bites, but this first one comes from Joel Bitonio.
Yeah, this one's awesome.
Joe Flacco and Wyatt Teller. Ant, you ready to play the sound? Whenever you're ready.
You guys know Wyatt. He likes to talk a little bit. So every once in a while we have to make sure he's back in the huddle, and Joe's not afraid to let him know in a colorful way.
Yeah. Did we talk about this on the air?
I missed the first part of that.
Okay. So apparently, I don't remember. I guess we didn't talk about this on the air. Apparently, Wyatt Teller was like pissed at a ref or something, and as action was going on, and go ahead, Mike. Did you say something?
No.
Oh, sorry. So Wyatt Teller was like getting on the ref. He was yelling at him, or whatever. And I don't remember exactly what Flacco said, but Flacco was like basically like, Wyatt, shut the F up and get the hell over here.
Wow.
And Wyatt was like, yes, sir.
Nice.
And that's why Joel is saying, like, Joe Flacco's calm and collected, except when it comes to Wyatt.
That's funny.
You know that's so funny because stuff like that, the dudes that be in the locker room, that kind of stuff count. Like,
oh yeah.
That shows like they believe in him. It's his huddle, it's his team, and it's like
right.
And the way he's talking about it, you could tell just the level of buy-in that he got, the way he's speaking about that.
Yeah.
You're like, that is hard to do.
Yeah.
And he just got there.
Yeah, you know your boys when you can bust each other's balls,
right.
and everybody understands this is just for the betterment of the group, not for and it's in fun. There's for him to say that to him,
and he took it and was like, all right,
right. You're the boss. I know what's going on. By the way, how's it going? Are we getting Carly Teller on, Mike, or what's happening here?
We're working. Well, listen, we have 2 or 3 guests booked each day for the next 7 days, so it's not like we have a ton of.
I know, but to get one of the players' wives, it would be nice.
Yeah.
A couple more things from this meeting, or not meeting, but from the press. Jeff Driscoll officially QB2.
It's official, huh?
And supplanted. Yeah, Alex Van Pelt confirmed that today. PJ
Walker.
Say
Kevin Stefanski wouldn't.
Stefanski sent him a raven.
I'll tell you Saturday at 3 o'clock.
Send the raven down below to tell them Driscoll's
One
up.
more thing I want to point out. This from Hayden Grove, but they talked about having there was a team meeting on Monday between all the players-only team meeting. The only players who were allowed to speak were players who had been to the Super Bowl.
You know what? I can't believe you said that because when Leroy was talking about experience and then he said, they've got veterans, but nobody. not a lot of experience at the Super Bowl. What I said was, I hope at some point before Saturday, I wanted to bring this up, is that Kevin Stefanski gets everybody together and in front of the group calls Juan Thornhill up and lets Thornhill talk and calls Joe Flacco up.
And anybody else?
Rodney McLeod, too.
No, I know there are other guys.
Rodney McLeod, yeah.
McLeod as well. But for me, what I was thinking was, I want to hear from Thornhill and Flacco about how this is different, how this is possible, and how it changed their lives. In particular, how it changed their lives.
Is McLeod, is there anybody else, or McLeod's the third one?
Thornhill, McLeod, Flacco were the three listed in the tweet. I'll have to dig up and see if there's anyone else.
I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head.
Super Bowl experience. But I did think that was a cool little gesture, and I'm curious if you guys think that, and I guess Leroy was in a different thought process than us. He took Stroud. He said the playoff experience doesn't matter as much, but I'm surprised a former player said that. I feel like, or maybe we looking too much into experience, or
no, I mean,
you think Leroy's
played it. We haven't, but I disagree.
And we got to ask other players.
Sure.
We have Bernie.
We have Bernie and Tim on this week.
And Tim on this week. We'll see. We'll see what they have to say.
When you got a signal, when you got a dude who you saw go on the road, which you might have to do,
it makes a difference.
It makes a difference.
I mean, Bernie's the perfect person to ask because Bernie went to the playoffs as a rookie. Now you know what I'm saying? So. He's like Leroy. We love Leroy, and he went to the playoffs a lot, but not until he was 5 years in.
Yeah, right.
He didn't go as a rookie, and he didn't have the pressure as a quarterback.
And for them to get up there to talk, he's speaking to the elite guys. Like he's speaking. That's why I'm happy that they got up and spoke to him, because now if you Denzel Ward, if you Myles Garrett, the actual best players on your team that may be not been there. He's explaining to them, listen, man, you don't take this for granted. You may never get back into the playoffs. There's Joe Thomas out here who ain't never had a playoff game. You better you better leave it all on the field. Everything you got, you better leave it out there. And that's why I say, hey, you got a rookie that is there, but you done put years into this game. So for you to be like, oh, we're going to, hey, let's have a nice story for C.J. Stroud. No, you got a lot of years in this league, rookie. We hope you're the best, but we need it now.
And I would say, guys, like, at least how I feel, I'm sure you guys feel the same way, C.J. Stroud is certainly a special rookie, right? Yeah. There's no doubt about it. And he has big-time college football experience. Nobody's expecting him to fall apart in this game. He's not going to be a disaster. No, but even if it affects him a little bit, that's something.
Yeah, one throw.
I just don't see how a rookie can't be affected at least a tiny bit. I find it hard to believe.
A rookie cannot be your best player. I don't believe that. We talk about can you be a number one player or a number one option? I just don't believe that you can win a Super Bowl with a rookie being your best player.
Has it ever happened?
I don't know. That it hasn't.
I mean, Dan Marino got to the Super Bowl as a rookie, but he lost.
It definitely hasn't happened recently.
Randy Moss's rookie season was incredible.
Yes, it was credible.
And they came damn close. They came within a missed field goal.
Yeah.
And he was their best player.
Yeah.
Of them going to the Super Bowl. But I can't ever remember a time
Burrow
went
happened. His second year, but he didn't win.
It's hard, man.
What year did Roethlisberger? What was his first Super Bowl? What year was he in?
But he wasn't their best player.
No, he wasn't their best player.
But I think they won his rookie year.
I think they did
13-3, right? Wasn't he like 13-3?
But wasn't that? Was that?
Hines Ward was still playing.
Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, Bettis.
And they had a loaded defense.
Yeah.
But I think he won it as a rookie, didn't he?
I think
He's
he
the only one that has.
Can you double check that, Mike? I'm pretty sure he won it as a rookie. But
who's this?
Roethlisberger.
But you said you can't win your rookie as a best player. He was not even close to their best player.
They had a really good defense, and they had a lot of pieces on offense.
If he does, listen, I'll crown him. I ain't afraid to crown nobody. If C.J. Stroud do something like make it to the AFC Championship game, I'm gonna just say I ain't never seen nothing like that.
See, I've crowned him already. I mean,
Did they win the Super Bowl his rookie year?
No.
All right,
what year did they win it? Early in his career, he won it.
Was it the second year?
No. Didn't they win in 2006, right? 2007?
I wonder.
I'm trying to think. It was Pittsburgh and Seattle.
Pittsburgh.
My brain's fried at this point.
And I think it was.
They won the So was that his rookie year? Hold on.
Yeah.
He went 13-0 as a rookie.
Yeah.
But did they win the Super Bowl that year?
I thought he did.
Are you using Pro Football Reference?
Yeah, but they don't have the results with the. Hold on.
Click on the year. Click on the year of his rookie year. If you click on the year, it'll bring up the standings for that year and everything.
Super Bowl champion was the Patriots that year. That's what I thought. They lost in the AFC Championship.
Okay.
AFC Championship.
We were wrong.
Game. Okay.
Okay.
And he
That's a
wasn't their
deep
best
run,
player
though.
anyway.
Listen, it's not about crowning this guy. I've crowned him. I mean,
I'll crown him.
barring some miraculous situation where he completely falls apart, I think C.J. Stroud has set himself up to have an incredible professional career.
I think you got to do it for 2 years before you're cemented.
Yeah.
But I think we'd all be shocked if he's not one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah,
going
my
forward.
eyes tell me he's one of the best right now, and I have nothing to make me believe that he's not going to be one of the
Couple
best.
super chats here before we wrap up. Thomas Dalton says ESPN says CJ's ranked 27th against man coverage. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure what stat that's necessarily referring to, but I'll look into it. Thomas. Vontae 90 for life says, what do you think the Browns' biggest weakness will be if they can't stop CJ, the run or the pass?
Run.
Yeah, I do too.
And
If
last
they
one,
can't stop CJ?
Yeah, I mean that's without that. I would.
Yeah.
I mean, if they.
it's Devin Singletary, Case Keenum, I guess is the question. If I'm reading it right from Vontae.
I don't know.
Last one, Jimbo 218 says, I believe Nick Chubb's contract is over at the season's end.
No.
What is
No,
the
it's
chance we resign him?
It's not over, but the number is too big for next year. They're going to have to
redo it.
Yeah.
They're going to have to redo it, particularly because he's a major unknown now coming off a ACL tear.
Yeah. Well, he had
That's
2
all.
surgeries.
He did, but
Yeah.
that's not completely uncommon
Right,
for the
well,
kind of injury. I mean, the
yeah.
severity of that hit and that injury, that was, my goodness.
Yeah.
We were all stunned when the initial MRI said no torn ACL.
Right.
I was like-
I've said his ACL then is made of rubber.
Yeah.
There's no way he
There's
couldn't have
no
torn it.
way.
Yeah.
But when the swelling reduced and they got a better look at it, it was torn. So,
All right.
okay.
We'll see you on overtime.
Yeah, we're still 3 days from kickoff.
It's crazy. Feels like it should be tomorrow.